On3's recent article of the upcoming non-conference series to watch out for. There were 10. 4 of them involved Notre Dame. I believe it was Alabama, Michigan, Texas, and Florida. To me, if I'm Florida, I run from the Notre Dame series because their schedule is ridiculous the way it is. I'm curious about Texas. Do you think that series will be played? Does it make sense for Texas to play Notre Dame twice?
Yeah, so that's within the next, 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's coming up at the end of the decade here. The optimistic part for me, why I feel like, yes, it might still get played, is that Chris Del Conte, the athletic director at Texas, is aggressive. And he's one of the guys that I've been saying two sides to every coin in this video, in this radio segment, a whole lot, right? Well, he's on the side of the coin where he's like, I don't care, man. We're going to play tough teams. We're going to play Notre Dame. We're going to go up there. They're going to come down here. It's going to be great for college football. Yeah, we might lose one or both of those games, but we're going to play really well, and it's going to be great for the game. It's going to be great for us either way. I think that's where he's at, and it tells me that's where he's at because I remember writing this story that we're going to get this home and home just last fall. I think it was November where this came out. So Chris Del Conte's a smart guy. Pete Bavacqua's a smart guy. They know where college football is heading. They know all the change. They know a lot of these teams are going to want to schedule a little bit easier if it means that they can get into the college football playoff because their conference schedules are already hard enough as is. So the fact that it came out that recently and this agreement came to just a few months ago, half a year ago even, I think, yeah, that's one of those that might get played. Now, like you said, Florida maybe is like, hey, and you got to realize that that program is not in the same spot as Texas right now either. And who knows? Maybe it's a complete reversal. Maybe the Gators are on top, and Texas is floundering again in 5 years. But at what I know right now about Chris Del Conte, about Texas, about Pete Bavacqua, about Notre Dame, the schedule coming, the agreement coming just a few months ago. Yeah, they want to play that game, and that'll be awesome because, like you said, who knows what we are losing? If we can gain a game like that, then I think it's great for Notre Dame, Texas, and college football.
Tyler, a real hypothetical question for you. The loss to Northern Illinois was credited for kind of turning around Notre Dame's season. Maybe the smaller details were covered. They learned that you can't let up no matter who the opponent was. And Notre Dame took advantage, I guess, of that loss and refocused and ran the table all the way up until the national championship game. Let me look at it from a different perspective. If Notre Dame beats Northern Illinois, do you think Notre Dame has similar success the rest of the way?
Very good hypothetical, and one I haven't really thought a whole lot about because Notre Dame did lose that game, and that did define the season. Like I
Yeah.
appreciate everyone from Riley Leonard to Marcus Freeman, the candid, open nature that they had about that game. They basically admitted, yeah, we let our guard down, but yeah, we're going to make the national title game because of that game. So if they lose that, I always think, Darren, that you're in for a slip up. Like going 12-0 is very, very hard. It just is. And Notre Dame, hasn't done it in a while. I know there was this season there in 2020 where you go 10-0, but we saw how that season ended, right? Like to win 12 games in a row in any capacity is very, very difficult. So I'm of the thinking that that guard that got let down, it would have got let down against somebody else. Maybe it's Louisville. Look how close that game was. Like even with what happened against NIU, that game was still really tough and could have gone a number of ways if the ball literally doesn't bounce a couple of ways that it does there. So it was impressive that Notre Dame, for the most part, outside of that Louisville game, just pretty much trounced everybody. Like none of those games were in question. The Fighting Irish were the better team, and they felt like they had to be because they knew what happened against NIU. And if they didn't come in completely prepared, maybe they do slip up somewhere else. So do they go 12-0? I don't think so. I just think it's really hard to do that. But if they're 11-1 with a loss later in the season, maybe it's Louisville, maybe it's Navy and Army, a bit of a house of cards there, even though the stories were fun for the service academies. But I do think 11-1, even with a win over NIU, would have been more likely than 12-0. Like 12-0 is just very difficult. And look, if you can lose to NIU, you can lose to anybody. And I think maybe Notre Dame would have lost to somebody else.
Okay. Well, we now know that you don't have to be a conference champion to be a top 4 seed in the college football playoff starting this year. So using this year's format, Notre Dame would have played Clemson last year in the first round. Does things go well in that game if that hypothetical was reality?
Look, I think Clemson, it was probably better than Indiana last
Agreed.
year. But I look at what Texas did to Clemson. They were up big in that game. Clemson made it close, came back, not to the extent like Indiana. Like that was never close. I know it's a 10-point game on paper. I think it was a 10-point game maybe for Texas and Clemson as well. But that was even a more lopsided game in that one as well. So I think Notre Dame would have beat Clemson because I saw a lot of similarities between Clemson and Texas last year, and seeing what Texas did to Clemson on its home field, and I would have liked Notre Dame to still win that game. But yeah, it is kind of crazy to see how different the bracket would have been if you went straight seeding last year.
Oregon, Notre Dame in the semifinal. That would have been intriguing.